Hi everyone, welcome to The Superficial Spirit, where we explore how pop culture affects our spiritual experiences. My name is Peter Breeze. Join me while we ask a very important question. What the hell did pop culture do to me? Hi everyone, welcome to The Superficial Spirit. Thanks so much for joining me again today. Hope you're doing well. Today, I am talking to my friend Parker McMullin, the artist formerly known as Jane Smoker, a very celebrated drag performer in Vancouver and Canada and Hollywood and New York and Miami and all over the world. I actually interviewed Parker when I first started the show, but I switched computers and I lost, I think it was 7 or 10 interviews, which really sucks because I had some really good ones, but I'm making my way through that list and redoing them. And Parker is one of the people that I wanted to have on the show right away. And so I'm happy to have him here again. We are similar in so many ways. Like so many young gay boys, we were both obsessed with fame and we crossed each other's paths at an interesting time in both of our lives. I mean, I was starting to pull away from doing pop music and wanted to focus more on promoting parties. And Parker had just come into nightlife, was in the underground hipster scene. Do people still say hipster, by the way? I don't know if they do. And we started working together. And I always thought he was way too cool to be my friend. But I had so much fun with them, and we together did a series of parties called DUI, and it was such a vital, important, fun, exciting, crazy, excessive time in my life. And I really wanted to have him on the show, not only to like take a trip down memory lane, but also, you know, again, connect with another person who had the same fame obsession that I have. And like me, he got close to his dreams in a lot of ways. You know, for a while, he was the most followed drag queen on Instagram in Vancouver. And Parker won all the competitions, was the Empress, just really, really hit the ceiling in Vancouver, sucked up all of the opportunities he could and did a really good job. And when you're famous in nightlife, it is truly a unique experience because you and the people around you can tell that you're having a moment. And for all intents and purposes, you are a celebrity in that community. But people outside of that world may not know that to be true. You know, if you are a famous drag queen in nightlife, but you have a day job, maybe the people at your day job don't know how famous you are, or if you're just a club kid or a socialite, and the people in daylight, the people that you don't see at parties, don't know how celebrated you are, how popular you are, how you're on the list. It's really crazy because when you are that person and you are the toast of the town for a period of time, it really does feel like you're a huge star. And I like connecting with people who have that experience because it validates my own, and also we can poke fun at it a little bit and be like, man, that it feels so real, but it's not at the same time. But if you try and tell someone who's having a moment that they're not actually famous, ooh, lordy, because it feels so real. And in so many ways, nightlife, and I guess social media now, is a great place to flex your creative muscles and see what you can produce and what you can make of yourself. Put your money where your mouth is. If you want to be a star, go fucking do it. There's never been a better time for people to express themselves with the internet and social media. Parker did a great job of that. And I also want to talk to him about Lindsay Lohan, because he loves Lindsay, I don't know if he still loves her, but really the problematic relationship we had with Hollywood bad girls and toxic role models. Yeah, that's sort of what sparked this second conversation. I know that people on Instagram were talking about an interview with Lindsay with David Letterman, where he was basically making fun of her rehab experiences and sort of just poking fun at all of the things that she had been going through. And again, it's just like the Britney interviews. At the time, it's like, oh yeah, they're teasing Lindsay, but what else are they supposed to do? She's a fucking mess. But now, in 2021, you watch that interview and you're like, wow, she was literally in the middle of like a substance abuse situation in her life or a mental health issue, whatever. Who knows what was really going on? But it's so inappropriate to be asking people that question on TV in front of a live audience. But it's what we did back then. I mean, I can't imagine that happening now, but I don't know. After the Britney documentary aired and the whole thing was about how problematic the paparazzi can be, there were helicopters above her house. So it's like, we have the conversations, but do things actually change? And that's the other thing about social media. It's like, it feels really good to be part of a conversation and it feels like there's change happening, but does that transition to the real world? Anyway, I'm sure this will be a really fun time. I don't know where we're gonna go with this, but please welcome Parker McMullin, artist formerly known as Jane fucking Smoker. How are you?
Well, here I am. I'm good. How are you doing?
Good. Your hair's long. Mullet.
Yeah, I've got a little mullet going on here.
I love it. It looks cute.
Thank you. The top part's a little puffy right now, so I'm wearing a hat, but you can take my word for it. It's a mullet.
You haven't been blonde in a long time, hey?
Oh my gosh. Well, not like actually blonde since like 2013, but I wore blonde wigs up until 2019.
When I met you, you were like just a child, a bleached blonde child at the club.
No, I was 3.
And I was 52.
Yeah.
No, I mean, how old were you actually when we met? I think you were like just 18 or maybe even 17.
No, I don't know. When we met, well, I knew of you when I was definitely like 17, but I think we officially met when I was just 20.
Okay. So you were at
19. Yeah, 19 had just turned 20.
Yeah. I remember like, because when I met you, I was coming out of my like pop star thing.
And I was coming into it.
And you were coming into it, exactly. But I remember you were one of the first people in the club where I was, I felt like I was looking at what was coming next. Because I was the moment for so long. And then you never think that anything's going to change. And then one day you're 25 and then you're 26, 27, 28. And then you slowly start seeing the next generation come up. And you were the first person, like you in Berlin. It was sort of like that old hipster crowd where I was so Davie Street and you were part of a world that I had been to a few underground parties, but I didn't know it the way you did. And I found that a little intimidating when we first met. I was like, oh, he's part of like a cooler underground scene.
Well, the feeling was mutual. I found it intimidating to be around people like you and Quana and, Jaylene and all these club stars that I had never actually met and just like seen in nightlife photography on Facebook at the time, because there was no Instagram at that point. So like whenever like a club would upload their album of like Saturday night and y'all were fucking tagged in all these pictures. So I was like, ooh, they're like the it people. And I'm just this teenager that likes to party. And now I'm on this path to like be a little bit more than that. So the fact that you were taking notice of me is kind of cool because I was definitely noticing you.
Well, I love hearing that. And I think that it's interesting because one, it's like that star quality thing that people have in nightlife and they have in real life. Like there are people in a club that stand out and I think are made to be in that environment because they, for whatever reason, can navigate it really easily. Socially, it makes sense to them and they can become the person that they imagined. And I think both of you and I are like that. And another thing that you said is interesting. Like when we met, Facebook was around, but I built my reputation by going out every night. It didn't like I was in the clubs and then Facebook happened. And it's so different now because you could become popular or like well-known without ever going to a nightclub ever.
Yeah.
Which is fucked. Like
perfect timing because all the nightclubs are not going to be around apparently. So, but yeah, it took a lot of stamina to keep up an appearance and a personality in the scene. You really had to go out and spend lots of money on outfits and drinks and cabs. And like, obviously it didn't matter to us because we were on a mission to like be present every night. But
yeah,
nowadays you don't have to.
Yeah, you don't, but I wonder if, because you were kind of on the border of, you were still very much a part of the generation that was in the clubs. Like you liked to party, you were a part of that scene, but then you also transitioned really easily to Instagram, and that became a staple for Jane Smoker. And I
Yeah.
remember for a while you were the most followed queen, I think, in Vancouver. And
Hmm.
I wonder, since you were part of both, did you find that it was equally as satisfying being a club and being the center of attention as opposed to getting all those likes and getting all those followers and getting a bit like a fan base that way?
Um, I don't know. I think it was just all part of the package deal that I was going for. And Instagram, honestly, like happened at the perfect time for me because I like already had a little bit of content created from like, I don't know, photos of whatever gig I was doing, or I had done a music video with somebody early in my drag career and a photo shoot with a Matthew Burdett. So like I had some like things going on that were visually appealing. So like Instagram happened and I was like, oh, I can now share these to a platform with like no shame because that's what it's for. And drag queens weren't really on Instagram the way they are today. So I had a little bit of an upper hand as being, I mean, there was a lot of them. I wasn't the only one, but there's millions of them now. So it's very saturated. To try and get yourself noticed on Instagram these days is
Oh my
so
God.
hard. Oh
Oh
my
my
God.
God.
But back then for me, it was like, I just had to hashtag drag queen and I got 50 new followers.
Oh my God.
So,
That's insane.
and
That
now they're
is so
like,
wild.
people are just dedicating their whole lives to it to just like scratch that 10K that so that they can get that swipe up. But I got to 7K very quickly in
Mhm.
my first year of Instagram. And then it kind of like hit a standing stop because I think Instagram figured out that they needed to make people work a little harder. So they
Yeah.
changed the algorithm. But a lot of people accuse me of buying my followers. That was like
I
one
don't
of
think
my,
you buy, I do know some people we know mutually that I think buy their followers, but yeah, like the algorithms were different. Like when Facebook, when I was releasing music videos, I would post one of my music videos from YouTube on Facebook, and thousands of people would see it within an hour because it
yeah,
was organic reach. And that, like you could also invite 5,000 people to one party, and then slowly they changed that. So I think, yeah, you kind of got in there right
right at the right
before it got
time.
harder. And now it's crazy because it's harder to build a following, but it's almost the most important thing. Like it becomes your calling card. And I don't know.
And
I feel for the girls because I
yes,
I don't know. I can't imagine the added stress of like I found anxiety keeping up appearances, going out every night to remind people who the fuck I was, because if I didn't, they would forget. But with Instagram, you are accessible all the time, all the
yeah,
time. So there's no excuse not to post, do lives, like whatever. And I can't imagine that at least on Monday, you're like, I don't need to go to the club. But now it's like you have to go, you have to be doing it all the time. And I see the queens doing that. I'm like, fuck.
yeah. I feel for them too, but I feel like it's the very same kind of idea of like Facebook to Instagram is now this Instagram to TikTok. Whereas
Yes.
on Facebook, I would like average around like 30 to 40 likes. I remember like that was like my cap pretty much. And then when I went to Instagram, I got upwards of like 70 likes. And I was like, oh, this is it. Like, this is
Yeah,
where
this
it's
is where you're
at.
supposed to be.
So I feel like nowadays people are getting, 100 likes on Instagram and then they're going to go to TikTok and they're getting like 200 views or whatever you have it. So they're like, oh, this is what's happening now. Like Instagram, that's for millennials. Now it's all about Gen
Yeah.
Z and their TikToks and all that. But either way, it's both exhausting to keep up with.
Yeah. Another interesting thing about when you came in was you were kind of at the time when drag started becoming cool and young, good-looking, popular guys would become young, good-looking drag queens. When I was growing up, the drag queens were like the older guys. They weren't celebrated. They weren't the center of the social scene. They were still celebrated and they were the pillars of the community, like they were leaders and they spoke out. But I remember there was a specific change in drag in Vancouver when you came along, because it became fresh, it became young. There was tabloid culture in there. It was social media. It was everything that was happening in pop culture you brought to drag. And so what was that like for you in nightlife? Like just being a popular boy, which you were before. Why did you say, I want to be a drag queen when you were already on guest lists? You were already experiencing that buzz around you. Why bother with drag at all?
That is a good question. So a loaded one, but
Yeah.
Okay, well, yes, I agree that drag queens at the time were known for being much older, much more extravagant, the gowns, the hair, and all that. So for me, who was 20 when I started, had just turned, and you know, coming out with like flat hair and like a tight dress, yeah, was very unheard of and was kind of just a fluke almost. I don't know, but I did know that I loved performing. I performed in a musical when I was in high school, and I did some like little plays when I was a teenager. So I was like, I wanted to perform in some capacity, but never wanted to do it so professionally or hardcore as much to like dedicate my life to it, because I knew that the chances of making it as an actor are very slim. You really got to commit to it. If you like are so passionate about it, you want to be a Broadway star, a singer, an actor, you got to like be willing to take the risk. So I was not willing to take the risk, unfortunately. But I always wanted to do it secretly. Yeah. So the fact that I was going out in the clubs and was kind of well known as a 20-year-old, and then I stumbled across drag, it was like the most in reach version of being able to perform in any capacity. And I never like really dreamt of being a drag queen ever. I honestly thought I was too young for it. And now that we're if we're being honest, because I didn't have anyone like Jane Smoker to compare myself to. Yeah. I was comparing to a little bit of an older type of drag queen that was around town and in media at the time. Drag Race was not on in every state.
No, it was not what it is now. No.
So I didn't know what I was doing. I just kind of blindly took a leap of let's give this a shot. And I asked to do one performance, and the rest is history.
Yes. And did you love it instantly? Like when I was 18, I did a few drag shows in Calgary, and same thing. I only did it because nobody was doing Britney. And I was like, I'm sick and tired of seeing fucking Judy Garland. I don't fucking know who that is. I want to see like a young pop star. And I immediately was like, drag is too much work. I love the attention, but I was like, there's no way I can commit to this. And so I had like a 5-second experience with it. But I remember being like guys being uncomfortable around me. Like the guys that I was seeing when I was 18, 19 and doing drag were like, oh, you're a drag queen. And they were like backing off. Did you have that experience?
I don't think I cared to notice. I was so like in my element that I didn't really care what anyone thought about what I was doing. I didn't care what their perception of someone like me doing drag was. I was just like in the zone and going for it. And did I like it instantly? I liked having a thing instantly. That's what I remember. Like I wasn't like, oh, this is what I've always been meant to do, is be a drag queen. I was like, okay, I finally found something that I'm doing successfully that people are reacting positively to. Whereas I had a lot of friends around me that were like, you were a singer, and my friend Sydney was like a very successful photographer, and I knew some artists and this and that, and I never really had a thing. So when I started doing drag, I was like, oh, here it is. This is a thing that I can do, and I can take somewhere, and it has legs to grow. And my background in marketing came into play because I considered Jane very much like a project, like a marketing project of where else it could go. Like what's beyond just the stage performance of 3 minutes of a pop song? Like, how can I turn this thing that I'm doing into a brand?
Yeah. And that's when I think of Jane Smoker, I think of the brand. And you couldn't, in a way, like, how could you at that age and in that time in pop culture have had the dream to be a drag queen? Because it wasn't, apart from
Exactly.
RuPaul and apart from, you know, Lady Bunny, who not even anybody would, you may not have even known of Lady Bunny back then. But now kids who are in high school can dream of being a famous drag queen because it's so common.
Totally.
But that's another marker for you, was like the branding thing, where it wasn't just about showing up at the club and doing the song at midnight. It was like, what do you look like on Facebook and on Instagram, and the whole narrative? Because this was also a time where we were starting to do the 24-hour news cycle with celebrities, paparazzi, Lindsay, Paris, Britney, and you brought that kind of nonstop energy to what Jane was, because it wasn't just on the show. It was like the whole thing. Anytime you saw anything with Jane, it was like not just a name on a poster, it was stylized, it was a thing. And
Yeah.
yeah, I love that you didn't try to seek out that opportunity. You just found yourself there and you're like, oh, I'll try it and then see what
I'll
happens.
make the
Because
most of it.
so many people now are like, I'm going to be a famous drag queen. This is what
Yeah.
I'm going to do. And then you can tell some people, it's like, it just, the pieces don't flow.
No, I think my advice to anyone starting drag these days is to check your intentions. And if your intentions are to be just a famous drag queen or to be on RuPaul's Drag Race of some sort, then it's maybe not the best idea because suddenly this, like, you're going back to saying being an actor and a singer is really hard to achieve. Now being that kind of a drag queen is just as hard to achieve. So unless you're 100% passionate about the craft and the art form, I would say do not get into it if you're trying to
And it's
just be
fucking
famous.
expensive. Like, it's
Yep.
not a cheap, and it's uncomfortable. And now, oh my God, I can't imagine being one of the girls on Drag Race during a pandemic and now like finally getting that opportunity and having to sit at home. I I just, if I was ever given the opportunity to be in a fucking reality TV show like that as a drag queen, and I was like, thank God my chance is finally here. The world is gonna see me. And then you're like, I have to sit at home. Like
Oh
I
my
felt
God.
for them. And you see them now trying to do the tours, and it's like, don't do it, just wait. But is there a part of you that's like, oh, thank God I got out before this?
I know it's so bad to say, but yeah, I mean, I couldn't do it. And luckily, I don't know, the stars aligned for some reason that I did call it a day before this all happened. But I definitely would have wrapped things up as soon as it was going digital. I've been like, I can't do this. I could barely, like, by the end of my drag career, I was like so not inspired to even like take a picture for Instagram, let
Wow.
alone sit down and do a virtual show. I would have not done very well with that. So obviously I feel for them all because I know how difficult that is. So from what I see, everyone's doing a great job of it. And it's just all about adaptation or adaptability. And kudos to them. I personally couldn't have done it. So
Yeah, it's a huge difference performing on, like, for your phone. I was talking to Kwana about it, and it's some people adapt, some people don't. But yeah, I do think you dodged a bullet. And it's interesting because you stopped doing Jane right when Canada's Drag Race was announced. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Why not just wait one season, win, and then quit? But well, why don't you talk about that? Like, was that decision in sync with the fact that Canada's Drag Race was coming out, or was it a coincidence?
no, it wasn't a coincidence. It was connected for sure. And once again, a lot of people thought I was bluffing and was secretly on the show, of course. And I knew they would say that, but now they know that wasn't true. But the way it was connected was they announced that the show was happening, Canada's Drag Race. And I had gotten tons of messages being like, oh my God, I can't wait. You're going to be on, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, okay, well, I guess here I go. I'm going to start like this audition process and all that. And as I was like preparing for some kind of an audition, like getting looks together and all that, I realized that if I did get on, then this would be my life forever. I would, I was pretty confident that I would do good on the show and I would be received pretty well, not to be like, yeah, I mean, who knows, but I had a good feeling about it. So I was like, okay, if I do this, like, this is it for me. Like, at least for the next 5 years, maybe 10 years, I'm going to be Jane. And I had just started my career in PR like a year before. So I was like at this crossroads of like, what am I really doing with my life? Now is the time to choose. I'm turning 30 soon. Is it going to be less drag and more PR? Is it going to be part-time career work and more drag? But the Drag Race opportunity would have taken away everything and it would have been just Jane. So I thought, I don't want to do this show. I don't even think I want to do this anymore, because if I don't want to do something 100%, then what's the point of doing it at all? I'm an all or nothing kind of person, right? Mm-hmm. So I could not see myself living full-time as a drag queen and not doing my PR career. And I also couldn't see myself doing a PR career and going to the club once a month to do a show after such a cool chapter of my life. I would not want to see that. I'd rather wrap a little bow up on the chapter, call it a day, and be remembered for what it was, instead of just kind of like go from being at the top of my game to here I'm a guest in someone's show once a month, and then once every 6 months, and then, you know.
Yeah.
So that was the decision I made. I was like, okay, so it has made my mind up for me, that if I'm not willing to do this show, that what is the point? If I'm not ready to take it to the next level, something that I would have worked so hard to get on, and I don't even want it, then why am I doing this?
I think that takes so much fucking courage to walk away from your dream. Well, it's not walking away from your dreams if your dreams change and you're like, I need to stop before this happens. And I had a moment similar to that when I was doing music. And I found like there was a crossroads where I started making more money. I was working with Tommy. We were trying to get me on the radio. Like, things were trying to get to the next level. And it changed the dynamic of the people around me, because suddenly it wasn't just my friends and I doing a fun project. It was like, we're trying to make this a real thing, and it completely changed it. I had a few moments where I was like, I don't want to do this unless it's fun. And in the moment, it was really easy for me to be like, okay, I'm gonna stop. I'm just gonna move in a different direction. And that's when I met you and we started doing parties. But I did have a moment like years later where I was like, why didn't I just buckle down, fucking focus, and see how far I could take it? And I think that's only as you get older, you look back and you can see things in retrospect of like, maybe if I wasn't such a fucking hot mess, I could have done this, blah, 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 blah. And so I'm wondering for you, because when I was watching you, there's no doubt in my mind, you would have gotten on the show, you would have done really well. But so few people in the world know what it's like to be a star in that way. And unless you've been a star in nightlife, it sounds so stupid to talk about, and how arrogant. Oh my God, these two like white boys talking about being famous in the club. But I mean, when it's happening to you, it not only feels real, it also feels like you can do anything. Like, you could take it anywhere. And so to walk away from that is like walking away from $1 million opportunity, something that people fucking want so bad, but then you live it and you're like, you know what? It's not what I want. And what was that like for you? Like, were you nervous? Were you sure? Do you have regrets now that the show has been on? Like,
I felt like I was really sure, honestly. Yeah. And I didn't just make the decision overnight. I sat on it for a month or 2 months, I would say, like all summer. I made the announcement in August and I thought about it all summer. Mm-hmm. And I went back and forth, honestly, being like, what are the outcomes going to be of this? I thought about a lot of different things, and I was sure enough to make the move to announce it. And once it was out there, it was out there. As time went on, I got more and more sure. Okay. I was like, I made the perfect decision. Like, I love that. I just like instantly saw a change in my lifestyle and my happiness and my what I wanted out of life, and the time freed up for me to focus on other things that I'd never been able to focus on before, because like I said, all or nothing kind of person. I was so every week very in it to win it, and years just went by and I didn't realize how much I was actually missing out on doing things for Parker.
Oh God.
And it was crazy. It was like so eye-opening of just the first few months, then this first 6 months, and the first year, and here I am. I don't know how long it's been now, a year and a half.
Yeah.
And it's a distant memory that I like can't believe even was real. Like it seems like a fever dream sometimes.
Yeah.
But I can tell you, Peter, but like with 100% confidence, I've never been happier. I've never been like, pandemic aside, obviously like the world is a bit of a nightmare right now, but like personally, I'm doing great. And I put that all on the fact that I made that decision.
I believe you. Like you seem really happy, and I know personally you've been through so much. I mean, starting like growing up in the church and then leaving it and being a drag queen and all that, how that had a ripple effect in every area of your life.
Yeah.
I've seen you come through, and I remember when people stopped calling you Parker and started calling you Jane. And I remember we would like at 5 a.m. I'd be like, people only call you Jane now. And you were the first person that I saw the full transition happen to. Just a boy in the club, becoming a star in nightlife. And then, you know, I moved away and you slowly, you know, you had your full cycle and then you left. But I do think your look back, and it does, my days in the club feel like I'm so proud of them now, because I think to be able to create that kind of energy is, like I said, not a lot of people experience it. And when you know what it feels like for your dreams to come true, even like you said, it wasn't necessarily what you wanted from a kid. It's so you can take that confidence with you out of the clubs, and you're like, if I can convince people I'm a fucking pop star, I can literally
do anything. Yeah, literally. I take a lot from it. Like there's parts of that chapter that I still use in my daily life, like the confidence. I like to channel a little bit of that when I'm doing something that's a little bit outside of my comfort zone. And I don't know, just like the work ethic is so strong in drag queens. I once again give them props. It takes so much work to do just what seems like a small thing, like one show, one performance that's to someone else's song. That takes a lot of work. Putting together that outfit, doing that makeup, styling that hair, doing whatever you're doing to your body, padding, cinching, learning the lyrics, being on for an audience, staying up late. It's just crazy amount of work. So I've taken that work ethic with me, and I owe it all to that, honestly, because before that, I hadn't really done anything that career-wise, because I was so young. I was like,
yeah, totally. You proved to yourself that you could build something from scratch, and you had so much validation. And now you have your, first of all, I love when you first announced your fragrance line, it was Fragrance Empire.
Well,
I love that. Last time we spoke, because we did do an interview before, but I lost the interview. You were just starting to work on your fragrance line, and now it's here. So how is that going? Tell me a bit about that.
Well, the last time we spoke, I was working on a project. It's evolved to become a fragrance line since then. Fragrance Empire, sorry. But it's called Heim Goods, and it is a brand that is owned and started by my boyfriend and I, Matt. And it's been like a COVID project, to say the least. We moved in together in April of last year, so almost a whole year ago. And, you know, I lost my job. I was on CERB. This happened, that happened. We're spending a lot of time together, making our house into a home. And that had proved to be a thing that we'd love to do together. It's like home vibe, decor, styling, and all that. So he's got a good background in design, and I come from the branding, marketing side of things. So we took our love of like making a home like a sanctuary and decided to turn it into a little brand with his design skills, his aesthetic skills, and my, you know, knack for branding and marketing. So it's a very homegrown project, and I mean that. Like, we invented all the smells ourselves. We got like all the essential oils under the sun,
Oh my
and have been
God.
like over the past 3 months, like coming up with little combinations of different scents that work for us. And the bottles we've chose ourselves, that are all sourced locally. They're little glass bottles, sustainably packaged. It's like all like every detail we've taken a lot of time to create, and I'm very happy with the results. It's so cool.
I know, I love it. I was so excited to see it, and it really looks like something you guys care a lot about. And I've been seeing a lot of posts on social media. So congratulations. That's great.
Thank
That's
you.
huge. To be able to like use this time to do something productive. And that doesn't mean if you're not doing anything productive, you're wasting your COVID downtime. But it
No, not
is
at all.
great to be able to do that. And I haven't smelled it yet, but I'm gonna buy some soon. And I want to smell like an old lady all the time. I don't know if that's what you're smelling, but I just love like fragrances. I think it's great.
Yeah, it's so surreal to have an actual tangible product that was created by us. It's so crazy. Like, we have it in retail stores now,
Mm-hmm.
and seeing it on the shelf of a retail store is like, what is that doing here? Like, we need to take that home. That's ours.
You know
It's so
what? You need
crazy.
to do like what Lady Gaga does when her album comes out and go and like buy them all. When she like goes
Oh
to
god.
Walmart and buys like 20 of her albums.
Oh my gosh, yeah. That's a good idea. That would be
Speaking
my.
of Gaga, yeah. Actually, you know what? Shania Twain, her first album, her husband bought 50,000 copies of it so that she would make
Oh.
the charts.
Are
There's
you
a
going
little
to buy
good sense to it.
50,000 of the room sprays
Yes, I
here?
am. You're gonna meet me
Is
and
that
I'm
what
just
you're?
gonna be like drenched in your fucking, it's not face wash, Peter.
Yeah.
So the reason why we wanted to have this conversation again is because some interesting things have been happening to our beloved icons. Um,
Yes.
and I just released an episode about Britney. I have a few of them coming out, but I feel like Britney, and I didn't realize this until lockdown, really, maybe 6 months ago. The Free Britney movement, I feel like, has been a symbolic evolution of like what I've gone through with the disillusionment of pop culture and my own dreams, realizing that I'm probably not going to be a celebrity, that what I see in pop culture isn't necessarily true. Like having the world's biggest pop star turn into the focal point of such a big conspiracy theory or such a hot topic of like the conservatorship has been such a shift from when I consumed her as when she was working and then as a paparazzi girl in LA. And
No.
it's been really, I am a fan, but it has had a really big effect on me because I felt like part of the illusion I loved, craved, and tried to replicate wasn't only fake, which part of me always knew that the fame thing isn't really real, but it was problematic and hurtful to these people, which
Mm-hmm.
looking back, how could we not know that? But, you know, Lindsay, who was your girl, Lindsay Lohan. For anybody who doesn't know, Parker has Lohan tattooed on his arm. There was a video on Instagram recently of a David Letterman interview where he was interviewing her, and it was really cringeworthy because he was basically making fun of her for being in rehab and being sober and not
Mm.
being sober. And we talked in our DMs about like how we idolize such problematic behaviors and figures. And what has it been like for you to like see the thing that's happening with Britney and Paris's documentary too, like her coming out and being like, I created Paris Hilton because of trauma.
Yeah.
Like, what the
It's
fuck?
it's honestly, the past year and a bit have been such eye-opening moments for so many different things, and like so many moments of unlearning. That's what I would
Yes.
um describe it as. Like, so many things that we didn't realize were the way they were are coming to light now. And I don't know if that has to do with us being in lockdown and being on our phones more and being more in tune with these movements that are happening, whether it's the BLM movement or the Free Britney movement or anything that happens. We all are aware of it now
Yeah.
because we're not missing a beat on social media when something's happening. So it's been very sad to see what's happening with Britney, and that New York Times documentary was hopefully going to be an eye-opener for a lot more people, mainly about the conversation of mental health, I would say, and just about the treatment of women.
Yeah.
Those are the two big things that I took from it, is how horribly women are treated. And it's like, we've known this for so many years, right? We always have known about why feminism exists and women get treated differently than men, but to like have it on this platform about Britney Spears, a topic that is a little bit more glitzy and we can digest in a different way. I think it's been a symbol very much for how women are treated in Hollywood, in real life, especially ones with mental health issues.
Ugh.
Because what happened to Britney and what's happened to Britney in her career, and Lindsay Lohan, and you know, some of the less fortunate ones like Amy Winehouse and Anna Nicole Smith,
Yeah.
they all suffered from mental health. And what did the media do? Completely make jokes about it. And we're all guilty of it, unfortunately. The media is. Shows like SNL making jokes, us making our party branded based off their misfortunes.
Totally, yeah.
And all of, like, everybody is guilty of it. Not one person can say that they didn't make a Britney joke. Like, if Britney can survive 2007,
oh my God,
you know, I'm gonna have a Britney moment and shave my head. Like, everyone said something or like referenced something to mock her a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I just hope that moving forward, these girls that are coming up now, like, you know, I don't know, I can't even think of who's super popular, but like Billie Eilish and Dua Lipa and all these pop stars that are up and coming. I hope that they get treated with a little bit more respect, and I think that they will, because of the martyrs like Britney that had to go through it, unfortunately. So it's just overall very unfortunate, because Britney's an icon, and we don't like to hear that what we've done has had an effect on the way that she currently is, which is nothing but very sad.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point. Like, the last year has been so, I feel like one thing after the other is just, it's brought out the dark spots in society and brought them to the light in the forefront, which has been so great. But it's such a mind fuck to have something that you like. For me, it wasn't just that I was a Britney fan. It was that I had dedicated my life from 9 years old until my late 20s at some point to wanting to be a star, because I was looking at these women as the like pinnacle of human experience, like to be chased by paparazzi, to be in the tabloids, to have a drug problem, to be too skinny, to have no stable relationships, to be flaky, to walk out of jobs, to be a diva. All of these things weren't just entertainment for me. They were like a checklist of what type of person I needed to be in order to become successful. So first it's like digesting that and being like, okay, what the fuck? Like, literally, what the fuck was I doing? And also how these people are just people, and that in and of itself is like, calling her Godney, for example, which I just did in a post, is problematic, because you're putting these people on a pedestal of expectations they can never meet. And I nearly got, when she first shaved her head, I almost got that tattooed on me. Like, there's so many, my relationship with it has been so problematic and so detrimental to like my own growth in so many ways. So seeing it now in the media feels like it's directly talking to me. It's crazy.
Right. But I think there is a difference between, you know, looking up to it and having a part in adding to the mockery of it all. I think you genuinely were inspired by it. And I would say a lot of the Jane Smoker persona was as well, in a sort of toxic way, but also in a way that takes the power back a little bit. Because there is an element to this like paparazzi fandom that like the Kardashians have taken the power back on, once again, because of martyrs like Britney, who didn't want it. And we just attacked and attacked and attacked. And we wanted more. We wanted to hear more and read more news about it and watch what is going to happen to her next. Like, that's the toxic part of it. But I think there's been some strategic celebrities that have used it to their advantage, like Miley Cyrus, for example. I feel like she could have become a Britney, and she probably recognized it was about to happen because they built her up like they do to everybody. And she was a Disney star. And then as soon as they could, with her smoking weed or whatever, or her Annie Leibovitz picture with her back showing, they were ready to destroy her and make her go, you know, nuts. And watch what she would do. Would she shave her head? Would she crash a car and mock her? But she instead was like, no, you guys aren't doing this to me. I'm going to give a big fuck you to everybody. And you can take it for what it is. And they still, of course, freaked out about it, but it was at least in her control. So I think she's a good example of someone who has to thank Britney a lot for being the first, because it helped her to be who she is today, which is still thriving as a musician. And she's paved her own lane. Yeah. And she, from what it looks like, pretty together.
Yeah, and I think she was open about a lot of things in her life that I think kept her in control. Like, she talked about the drugs she experimented with. She talked about her sexuality. She talked about the way she likes to have sex. And so I think it took away some of the mystery, whereas Britney, you never heard anything about that. And Lindsay too. Remember when Lindsay did the Oprah show and Lindsay didn't reveal anything other than she did coke 15 times, and she would like hide from the cameras, and she would claim that she wasn't drinking. And watching it, it was like, just be honest. That's what I remember thinking. Just come clean. Then you can have a comeback. Then we can celebrate you. But then I'm like, what if I was like in our heyday when we were partying nonstop and there was suddenly a camera in my face? Like, I can't even imagine how that would have affected me and the decisions I would have made. So yeah, I think Miley is a good example. And I'm curious now how fame will evolve, because I don't think people will.
I think social media will have a lot to do with that, because I feel like I wonder what Britney's dark times, if you will, would have been like if she had a platform to be able to speak her truth, like Instagram.
Directly to her fans,
Because she didn't have that.
No.
All we heard about Britney was on a magazine cover of some shitty tabloid at the checkout at a grocery store every week. So I feel like nowadays, if the water's getting too hot for a celebrity, they can nip it in the butt from their own mouth on their Instagram live or whatever they want to do. They can be like, no, we're not doing this. We're not talking about this. This is not true. This is happening. But the lines were so blurred back in the day. And it's, I think one of those things about social media, how it can be terrible, but also be like a great platform to avoid moments where things get so out of control for whether you're a celebrity or, you know, just a random person.
Yeah, you can keep your your side of the street clean.
Control the narrative.
How do you feel about Lindsay now?
I don't, you know.
Oh wait, how did you feel about her? Like, what did she used to represent to you, like with Jane? And how do you look at your relationship with her now? Like, now that it's distant, now that you don't do drag, now that we're changing the way we talk about these women, what is it like when you look back and see the way you loved her, the way you looked up to her, or whatever your relationship was with her? How do you see it? How do you describe it? And how has it evolved?
Well, back in the day, I've always said the fascination with her was a sense of relatability, which sounds ridiculous, I know, but coming from the tail end of my time in a religion where I was also rebelling and was getting in trouble nonstop, where a lot of people around me were doing the same things and not getting as much trouble as I was, I felt like a sense of like, oh, this is like, she's always going to court. She's always getting, you know, dinged for this dumbest stuff. And I related to that in some weird sense, that I would have to like go talk to these priests about like anything I did wrong in the church. So that was like, she was like my, not role model, but someone I could like relate to a little bit.
Yeah.
So that sounds far-fetched, but That's just the truth. And the whole like glamorous bad girl aspect did definitely inspire Jane. Of course, Paris Hilton, Britney, Lindsay, that whole era of celebrity was what inspired Jane, mainly because of a little bit of the taking the control back of how to get that brand out there and how to get people talking. I just noticed that their every move was kind of monitored, and I wanted people to talk about Jane. Yeah. So to have that kind of energy about me, this like enigma, it's like you don't really know me, to see me all the time in the club, and maybe I'm like, you know, a party girl. That was the inspiration, for sure it was.
Yeah.
So that's 2 layers of who she was in my life. Nowadays, I don't know. I look back and I wonder if it was a good inspiration. I wonder if it was a good place to look. I wonder if I didn't have someone like her, who I would be these days, or who I would have been 3 years from when I started drag. I don't know. But now I just see a woman who has been done wrong in Hollywood. Yeah. And I feel a little guilty for not seeing it then. And I feel that way about Lindsay and Britney and all these women. I feel a little bit of guilt.
Yeah. I feel that. And imagine being Lindsay and like going through whatever she was going through, and then people like young gay guys just wanting to party with her. Like that was the only, when I first like stopped drinking, I remember when I was going to AA meetings, I told my sponsor, what if I meet Lindsay Lohan and she wants to do coke with me? I can't, how can I say no? He's like, the fact that that's your first question, we have some work to do. But I think that those narratives that the tabloids pushed put these women in a box too, where they weren't able to be anything else. Like Lindsay was the bad girl. That's what so many people loved about her. But she was like, I am an actress. I am an actress. And it didn't matter how many times we said it. We're like, no, girl, you like to party. She's at the club. And we wanted it so bad. And this is why celebrities are so important, because somebody like you does look to pop culture for inspiration when you feel isolated. Even if they are problematic role models and they're destructive and they have all these issues, it's better than feeling alone.
And it's true. We always look to pop culture of what's going on, what's trendy, what's happening, what are people wearing, what are people doing. So it just happened to coincide with my starting drag and that era of Hollywood being what to look to. There was no social media, once again, to have inspiration by. It was movies, music, and pop culture. So the fact that I was like, okay, so everyone is interested in this kind of moment, whether it's, you know, mugshots and
oh my god,
running around town like in these little outfits and the no underwear in the cabs and like all this madness, like that's what people were talking about.
I fucking forgot.
So it was nuts. So that's what I kind of looked to, as like, okay, so this is what the people are liking, so let's try and make like a drag brand out of it. How can we do that? And I did, and it worked. So I was right.
Totally did. And I think you made it accessible. Like you brought that fantasy right into people's faces. Like they got to go to the club and feel like they were with Lindsay, or they were, remember Club Lohan? Oh my god. That I think is the best. Everybody in Vancouver changed their profile pictures to the burn book. That you can't you cannot replicate that shit. The way that party grew organically online was wild. That was so crazy. Oh my god,
that was like low key, like original influencer marketing shit. Like giving everybody content and making them all change their profile picture. Low key, they're all promoting the party for us. I was like, that was good. We were ahead of the game.
I love that.
Nowadays, you have to pay people like $1,000 to change their profile picture to anything. But
oh god, that was good. And then we did Club La Hilton, and you made me look like E.T. in drag.
Well,
I remember you guys are like, don't look in the mirror. Don't look at them. And then the pictures came out the next day, and I was like, oh good god. Yeah, but whatever, we tried.
It was what it was.
So what do you think is the future of drag now that pop culture has changed so much and now that social media is pretty much more important than clubs? What do you have any predictions of like how drag is going to evolve and how we're going to consume it?
I don't know. I feel like off the top of my head, the pendulum always swings, right? So I'm waiting for a moment in drag when homemade and talent, when it comes to like you know, the artistry comes back and is more celebrated than these queens that go on Drag Race and pay for designer outfits and styled wigs and this and that. I feel like it's gotten so like just less fun. Like everyone just is so like
serious,
stressed and serious about it, and like their outfits all have to be like by like these top designers and like always, you know. And I think back to like the earlier seasons of Drag Race when they had to like dive into a dumpster and make things out of paper, and that was fun. But it's gone up to like the, you know, I don't know who on the top of my head, like Aquaria, Violet Chachki level. And I feel like now it's hit the roof of like, okay, we've seen it all. Everyone looks perfect. We get it.
Yep.
So I'm waiting for it to get a little bit more like grungy again. Like bring back that East End flair a little bit to drag.
Yes. I was thinking that will happen after the pandemic. There'll be like nightlife will hit like Studio 54 levels again, where people are just like, I don't even know what's going to happen. I'm going to be there though. That's all I know. I think you're right that the pendulum will swing back. That's so exciting to think about, like going back to when you had to work your way up and make something, fucking make something. Anything.
I think it will come back. I feel like it will get to a point where it's exhausted a little bit, that we don't want perfection anymore. Now we want a little bit of grit. And I feel like that's kind of showcased on the Drag Race seasons that are on right now, the season 13 and the UK.
Yep.
Where I think on season 13, they have this pressure in America to be perfect and look perfect. And what's their image going to be? Oh, are they going to get social media famous? This and that. And it's feel like you can tell that it kind of sucks the authenticity out of it. And they're like, competitive, they're in to win it, they want to be famous, they want 1 million followers. Whereas the UK, they've got nothing to lose or win. They're not winning any money, so they're just like happy to be there, and they're just being their authentic selves. And like I find it so much more enjoyable.
I find UK so much more enjoyable too. And it felt like they were it was still, they really valued that they were there and they were so excited. Whereas people come on Drag Race and they're like, this is just a stepping stone to what my career is actually going to be, which is a huge celebrity. And they kind of diminish being on the show. But the girls in UK, it feels like they're having so much more fun than America.
Yeah, I love it. It's so much fun to watch.
Do you have any advice for, just to wrap things up? I know you gave some good advice to drag queens. If you just want to be famous, don't do it. But what about people who are looking to celebrities for inspiration, or maybe famous influencers as a way to make decisions and model their life off of? What advice would you give them?
I would say keep it as authentic as possible, because if you're looking up to somebody for inspiration, 1 million other people are too. So to think you're going to be the second coming of anybody is pretty naive. You'll probably be the 150,000th of somebody, because there's always somebody doing it before you. So I would say it's really impossible to reinvent the wheel with anything. So whatever you choose to do, or whoever you choose to be inspired by, there's going to be somebody that's probably doing the same thing as you. So that's why I would say just keep it real and keep it authentic, because if you're looking to somebody saying that's the recipe for success, and then you're doing it and somebody else is, you're not going to be so fulfilled. So keep it real.
Exactly. You can be inspired by them, but still find your own flavor. If you do anything authentically, people will love it. That's why I could dress up like a bag of Coke and Peter like, oh my God, Peter, that's so charming. Anyway, thanks Parker for coming on the show. I'm glad we got to do this again.
Yes, don't lose my recording.
I won't. Oh, bitch, I won't. Oh my God, I felt so bad about that. I won't.